at Villa Park, and I'm joined with two special guests today. I have got Jonathan Morley representing Liverpool. Jonathan, how you doing? You okay?
Good, Ben. Thanks for having me on.
No, it's a pleasure as always. And I've brought in Gary from Every Week We Follow. Gary, you right, mate?
Yeah, good, Ben. You, mate?
All good, pal. All good. So, look, this episode could be absolutely box office because I've brought in two people, including myself, who don't really mince our words, and we say what we think when we think it and just get it out there. So, first one, just to kick it off, Jonathan, Liverpool this season, it's been neither here or there. What are your thoughts of the season so far for Liverpool?
I just want the season to end, to be honest. I just want the season to end, but ultimately, by still reports coming out, I have believed kind of all season that there will be a change that actually happens at the end of the season. But with reports coming out still that the manager still could be there next season, I don't know. Maybe I just want football to end. Like, maybe I just want football just to stop, especially with what's happened with Arsenal as well. But look, my thoughts of the season is it's been the least enjoyable season of my lifetime. We play absolutely crap football. We're unwatchable. We have no style. We have no identity. We are purely well, we need individual brilliance or individual quality to do anything in a game. If we don't get that, then we don't get anything. Fuck all in terms of build up as well. Like in terms of counter attack, we have nothing. It's just like the polar opposite of what it was when Klopp was there. And look, obviously, it's not fair to compare everybody to Klopp, but it's just been so bad. I could take Liverpool having a bad season, but if you actually watch us and how depressing it is, I can't take that. And then the fact that this manager could still be there next season just makes me even more annoyed. But my thoughts overall in the season is just that I've just hated pretty much every single bit of it.
No, it's understandable, for a club like Liverpool stature to be competing where you are, and it's been a massive struggle. And with the amount of money that has been spent by Arne Slot in the summer, you're coming off the back of a title-winning campaign, you would have expected them to kick on. And look, I appreciate that there's going to be the argument for ultimately it being a transition period, and you've brought in so many players. Questions have to be asked though sometimes. Did you need to bring in so many players? Did they need to do that much of a change that quickly? And I think you've had a bit of a sting as well in the season with Ekatike getting injured, because that was not a nice one, I don't think. And he's going to be out for a very long time with that injury, isn't it? What's your assessment of the signings this season? Do you think they've done well?
I think look, obviously Isak got the injury, but he wasn't showing anything close to what he's shown previously in his career at Newcastle and that, even at Sociedad, even for Sweden. Kirkes has been poor apart from a little period. Wirtz I think has been okay at times, but a lot of other times he's kind of looked lost within that team. Ekatike started well, but it faded out. Obviously, then he got the injury as well. I just think it just not to bring everything back, but it everything does come back to who's the manager, and you bring in top quality and you can't get the actual best or even good out of these players. They look worse than they ever have in their careers. I think that's a massive problem. Even established players this season, the likes of McAllister, the likes of Salah, have just been absolutely awful, and there's just so many reasons there that you're just like, why is it going wrong for this person? It's like nearly every player on the team, apart from Szoboszlai this season, we really haven't had a good player. So what does that say?
It's a bit of a strange one, isn't it? Funny you talk about the manager. I actually seen a petition going around from Liverpool fans earlier today that they're looking to sign in a petition to get rid of Arne Slot, and there was should we say, a fair few Liverpool fans that signed it for last night. I think the last I saw was like 3.1 million or something crazy like that, which is unsurprising, to be honest with you. I thought it might be more, if I'm going to be honest with you. Like, he's had an absolute stinker.
There is a lot. There's a lot of different ones. So like if you put them all together, it'd probably be like an absolutely insane number. Um, I think it's just people like myself or whatever who just feel like that their voices are not being heard by the club. It's got to the point uh, to last weekend against Chelsea where Rio Engamoa goes off and there's a massive boo. It's got to the point where after the game there's a huge boo. I know a lot of people at the game. I know a lot of people who were at that certain game and they've said they've never heard Anfield like it. That is incredibly, incredibly rare. It's such a rare thing to happen at Anfield. That never happens, regardless of how bad uh, everything is. You never hear that level of kind of booze. You never hear that level of booze or that level of displeasure at Anfield. And I think the biggest thing is just that everybody's now just tired of it. Everybody's now just tired of it, and people feel like the club are not listening to the supporters, and it's just going from one extremity to the other. And I can imagine if he's actually still there next season, the level of toxicity will be at an all-time high.
So heading into this weekend, obviously, Friday night. What's the feeling amongst the Liverpool fan base? Do you think you'll get a result? Do you think you'll beat us? What's it? How do you feel about it?
I mean, I'm just like Villa are a better team than us. 110%. Villa are a better team than us, and Villa are a lot better to watch than us. I mean, Burnley are better than watch to us. But like, but that's not discounting Villa. Like Villa are a good footballing team. I like Villa. I like what Unai Emery is doing there, and I really like Unai Emery. I think he's a very, very underrated manager. And I think if this was just a normal kind of Premier League game, I think Villa would definitely beat us. But the only thing is now, obviously, looking at that Burnley game at the weekend as well, are Villa just kind of looking at that European final now? How will Villa? I'm not sure how Villa are going to actually look at this game, but I think if Villa look at it and take it somewhat seriously, yeah, they definitely beat us.
Yeah, I think there's a bit of Gary could probably add to this. There's a bit of mixed bag amongst the fans as how serious we take this. Obviously, with the the Europa League final on Wednesday night, it seemed like with the Burnley game, the players were, I've got to be honest, knackered mentally, physically from the game against Nottingham Forest on the Thursday. So that definitely played a part. But with us not having Champions League football confirmed before that Europa League final and Manchester City on the final day, we kind of need points. And I did a bit of content, and it was a bit of tongue-in-cheek the other day to say that I wouldn't be surprised if there was some sort of a gentleman's agreement between the two clubs to play out a draw, because ultimately, if we both get to 60 points, I don't see Bournemouth beating Manchester City. And then that way, both Villa and Liverpool would confirm Champions League football, and we won't finish above you because we've got Man City on the final day of the season. If we win the Europa League, we'll already be on the beach. Half our players will still be pissed up from the celebrations. So you can't catch Manchester United in third. So everyone benefits. Whether that plays out like that, I'm not quite sure. How do you feel about it, Gary?
Mate, I'd take that right now. Gentleman's agreement, 1-1. Thanks very much. Let's all go. Let's think about Champions League football. I mean, I don't know about the players. I can't focus on this game. You know, my head is firmly on next Wednesday. I've been kind of doing content all week, and I remembered that I had to do a podcast yesterday to talk about this game, and I was like, "Oh crap! I forgot we were even playing Liverpool." And so if we're like that as fans, what are the players' mentality going to be like going into this game? You know, and we didn't want this way. I think the Burnley game shocked me a little bit. I just thought, turn up there, get the job done, then we can kind of relax going into this fixture. It doesn't really matter what happens, but now, like you said, Ben, we've got to get points, right? So he's going to have to risk some players, and are those players going to be like, I'm worried about getting injured. I don't want to get injured for that final. I want to play in that final. So, I hope that he goes strong to start. 35 minutes, maybe get a goal, take everybody off, like you say, get an equaliser. That's my prediction. 1-1. Come home, get on the plane to Istanbul, and bring home that first European trophy in 44 years. That's the dream.
That is the dream, my friend, and I think we're all clucking for that bit of silverware, to be honest with you, because it's been far too long. I haven't seen us lift anything in my lifetime, which is ludicrous to say for a club the stature of Aston Villa. But we've had opportunity. Sadly, it's not how the cookie crumbles. Only certain teams can win something each year, so that's kind of how it is. But a little bit of me does somewhat feel like, and some people aren't going to probably like what I say. I wouldn't be surprised if Unai Emery just gambled, and he just went rotated fully for Liverpool and said, you know what, I think 4 points gap. Is it 4 points or 5 points? 4 points, isn't it? We've got at the moment. I think 4 points will be enough, and Manchester City will beat Bournemouth. Risky as that is. But then if we win the Europa League, it doesn't really matter anyway, because you get Champions League football regardless. So it's a very much a catch-22. How do you see Liverpool lining up, Jonathan, for the game?
Well, obviously there's a few injuries. Obviously Salah's not back yet. I'm not sure. Well, he wasn't training there, but I don't think he'll start. We've had Gakpo up top like the last couple of games.
That sounds like Leon Bailey for us.
Gakpo's worse. I swear, man. But
he's not really liked, is he, amongst the fan base for Liverpool? Is he, Gakpo?
No. He was okay for a while. He was okay, yeah. But I think it's when you take out Diaz, then it kind of more exposes kind of the player that he is, which is Diaz was very kind of explosive. He was a proper winger. Now his output was really poor in the Premier League. So the price that we did get for him was good at 28 years old. And I did actually believe Gakpo would be okay in that position, but he's not a winger. He's not really a winger at all. And that's supposed to be his best position. So he's just an awful footballer, to be honest. But I think Mamardashvili is back, who hasn't been great this season. Mamardashvili, maybe Frimpong off, Van Dijk, Kanase, Kirkes probably starts this game. Gravenberg, maybe Jones or McAllister, probably McAllister, Szoboszlai. He could be looking at Wirtz on the wing, or he could be playing a different formation. He hasn't a clue what he's doing anyway. Let's see, at striker probably Gakpo, and then maybe off the right. Well, it depends. We don't really with Salah injured. We don't really Salah. I think will play some part in the game, but he won't start. We don't really have Manny to play off the right. We have Chiesa, but he never ever gets a chance. But yeah, you're probably going to be looking at Gakpo starting up front. Szoboszlai and Wirtz in midfield. I don't know. Will he even start Rio Ngamoa, who's been one of our few positive lights this season? Yeah, 100%. And he's somebody that just excites you a little bit. Do you know what I mean? In a season in which has been so depressing, he's been a breath of fresh air.
Yeah, it's a bit of an interesting one. One area which I've had reservations with Liverpool this season is at the back. I think you've been very shaky, especially the centre of defence, which has been something you won't really say about Liverpool for years and years and then. But I don't particularly trust Konate and Van Dijk as well. I think he's been a bit ropey this season in comparison to, the Van Dijk in his peak was arguably one of the best defenders the Premier League has ever seen when he was at his pomp. But I just don't think he's quite at that level. Is that a fair assessment? He's
definitely had his worst season. Now, I don't think he's been as bad as what people have said. It's just the spotlight is just so big on Van Dijk because of the standards he set previously. Yeah. He's definitely had his worst season. But I think that's mainly because of what's been around him as well. Obviously, Konate has been awful for most of the season. In terms of our two fullbacks, whether it's Kirkes, whether it's Robertson, Frimpong, who he was not a right back really. He's even been played at right wing there recently with Salah injured, which he's looked even worse in. So And even behind him, obviously with Alisson getting injured as well, and then you look at what's in front of him with Gravenberch and that, and he hasn't had a very good season. So I think he's got very, very little cover, and unfortunately, whenever Liverpool look bad defensively, or maybe whenever Van Dijk could have done something better or whatever, it's always blown up a lot bigger than what it actually is. He's actually not been as bad as what people say. He's definitely been our best defender. Obviously, that's not difficult, but he's been okay for the large part. But look, I think the biggest problem has been what's around him. Canade looks like he might be signing a new contract. Some Liverpool fans seem happy about that, which is just bizarre, to be honest.
John, can I ask a question? Because I think one thing that I've been really aware of this season for Liverpool, like, because there's been so many of your key players from last season. So forget about your new signings that have been under par. Because I go back to under Klopp, and I used to be excited to watch Liverpool. I'd watch Liverpool games going, this is going to be amazing. And this season's just been way off the pace. But I don't think, can it not be underestimated, the fact the loss of Diogo Jota, right? That all these players that were probably deeply connected to him, it's no surprise that they're dipping foot. I mean, we're talking about, trauma, right? And trauma's a response for people that, affects everyone in different ways, but it must have had an impact on these players going into this season, and they're just expected to then get over the death of a friend and hit the heights of the quality that we know is required to compete in the Premier League. Do you think that it's still having its impact?
To be honest, Gary, I think I can definitely hear that. I can definitely hear that, but what I would say in rebuttal to that is that if you look at the starting 11, in terms of the players we brought in the summer, and that, you're talking about half the team who never played with him or never knew him. So, you know what I mean? So I would be somebody who absolutely I would hear that in terms of, the senior players, the guys who played with him for years, the likes of Salah and that, 100%. And Salah was so close to him amongst so many others in the team. But you talk about a lot of the new players, and obviously they didn't know Jota. And then I would think it's something where, say if like the first number of months of the season were really bad or whatever, and obviously it's still kind of fresh in the players' minds, you would expect to see it improve at some point. I actually thought that Liverpool would use that as motivation this year to play. Yeah, galvanize them. Exactly, that's the word. Like, I actually thought Liverpool would do that this season, and it would actually improve us, and we would actually play for Diogo Jota. But it hasn't materialized like that at all. But it's just what we've seen every week. What we've seen every week is not changed whatsoever, and if anything, it's got worse.
I think there was somewhat a bit of that at the start of the season, because I thought you started the season pretty well, to be honest with you, but then it kind of, you just sort of fell off a cliff. And the thing, just to touch on Gary's point around, the Diogo Jota thing, and rest in peace Diogo Jota, and I don't want to sound disrespectful in the slightest, because it was an absolute tragedy what happened to him. But how long would they be able to use that as an excuse for, realistically? Like, these are professional athletes playing a professional game, which are paid an awful amount of money for. Now, look, I get it, you're losing one of your friends, and it can affect you in whatever way. But that surely that excuse wouldn't be able to last for a full season. Again, not to sound disrespectful, but that's kind of the harsh reality of the situation. I think it's a lot deeper than that, personally. I think the big thing for me, again, as an outsider looking in at the football club, it just seems to me that the manager was massively living off the back of the success of Jurgen Klopp. He had Jurgen Klopp's team for the previous season who were fantastic. He's tried to do his own work, tried to mould the squad in his own way, and he's probably done too much, and it hasn't worked. Now, whether they look to keep him for another season, which I know is like, sounds like because he's rolling, whether they look to do that just to see if they can make it work in a second season and stick with him because he's got credit in the bank for winning a title, which is what you're going to probably hear from a lot of people in the Liverpool fan base. Correct me if I'm wrong.
It's very minute now. It's very, very minute now.
Well, hopefully, more. Do you know what? It's a really, really mind-numbing one for me as a neutral looking in. If you let fucking Chelsea go and get Xabi Alonso, I would be absolutely baffled.
No.
I thought it was an absolute banker that you were going to go and get Xabi Alonso. Maybe Steven Gerrard would come in as his assistant at Liverpool, and he'd be there for I don't know, 3-4 years, whatever it takes. Steven Gerrard would be working in the back as his assistant, and then when he goes, Gerrard would naturally go mould into that next manager. Now, us as Villa fans have our opinion on Gerrard because we saw what that looks like. It didn't particularly work out very well at us, but it just screams that one day he probably will take over. He will have a spell as Liverpool manager. I'd be very, very surprised, even if it's as an interim manager. Yeah. I'd be very surprised if he doesn't. He's the Mr. Liverpool, isn't he, Steven Gerrard?
Yeah, absolutely. I did think at a certain part of the season, Ben, I did think that Gerrard might be an option to actually come in on an interim basis, but obviously not be there on a long-term basis. I did feel, and I have always felt, and I still somewhat feel like there will be a change made at the end of the season. But what's coming out and stuff like that is incredibly disheartening, is even more depressing. But look, I mean, I always thought that Alonso as well would be that guy. I always thought he would be. And can tell you for a fact, Xabi Alonso, with the love that he's got for Liverpool Football Club, obviously a legend of the club, that he is waiting for Liverpool to make that move. He will not go to Chelsea until he is 100% certain that Liverpool are not making that move. He will not do that. And the fact that he's been available, like everything this season has just been like frustration, anger, depression, and it's just like not even slowly, it's just steadily went up. And the fact that with things going so bad, Alonso at Madrid, it's like, oh, nobody's available, it's not available. Alonso becomes available, the change still is not made, gets even more frustrating. But the fact that that could actually happen, the fact that that's even a possibility, that at the end of the season, Alonso goes to Chelsea, we miss out on that opportunity and we stick with this guy, this fucking egg. I swear, I swear, I've never felt more disassociated from Liverpool Football Club and football in my entire life. But if that happens, literally sack everybody within the club. Apart from the players, you can keep the players, but all the higher uppers, sack everybody within the club, because that is arguably the worst decision, the worst handling. That is the worst handling of the club that I've ever seen in my life. Simple as that.
Yeah, it just screams to me that Alonso comes into Liverpool and then Chelsea go and look at maybe a Cesc Fabregas, a legend of their football club. That am I overthinking this?
That's what I thought. That's what I was thinking.
So, Gary, what do you reckon for the weekend then in terms of the Villa side? How do you reckon we'll line up?
Well, I mean, mate, I talked about this yesterday, and I honestly couldn't call it. Every time I try and what I am doing, by the way, is feeling incredibly grateful for Unai Emery after this conversation, because we've in recent weeks I've questioned his squad selection and kind of what is he just focusing on Europa League, or is he because he's always said in his post-match notes, like, the Premier League is the priority, right? And then in the last two Premier League games, we've been absolutely shocking. Against Spurs, that game was unacceptable. I was absolutely fuming, and people come at me going, "Oh, you're focusing on Europe." No, people paid £92 a ticket to go and watch that game, and it was kind of watching schoolboys play. They didn't even try, and that for me is unacceptable. And then against Burnley, you go, okay, he's made changes because we played so well against Nottingham Forest, left everything on the field, tired players, give people a rest. And again, it's not that we played particularly bad against Burnley, we just didn't do enough. And you can't, against a team that haven't won in 26 games, do you know what I mean? So, and now with the final less than a week away, I'm kind of, well, is he going to risk players to go full strength, which would mean playing the likes of McGinn and Buendia, Rodgers, Watkins, all starting, which, and in my mind, I think, yeah, do it. I think I said at the start, just get out there 30, 35 minutes, really have a go at Liverpool. Because I think the game will be open. You're not going to sit back and park the bus like many teams do at Villa Park. And if we can nick a goal, then maybe we've got a chance of getting a result, which would then obviously put us in a great frame of mind going into Wednesday's game. So I personally, Ben, I'd go full strength as much as we possibly can. With maybe the only change I would probably make is maybe play Bizot in goal and give Martinez a rest, because I think he is the only player that I definitely want 100% fit for the final. Because I've been watching saves and penalties and all sorts, and just think we need him fit and firing for Wednesday. So yeah, hopefully that'll be the case.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I'm in two minds, as I said earlier on in the podcast, that I'm unsure whether he's just going to go, you know what, so many words, fuck it, we'll risk the 4 points. We'll see if Bournemouth have the minerals to go and beat Manchester City at home, and if they do, fair play to them. Risk it. And also Brighton may add, because Brighton are still in touching distance of us. They need to win both their games, and we lose both of our games, they can catch us. But personally, I don't think that they will beat Leeds at Ellen Road. I think Leeds will get at least a draw out of that. Personally, I would personally I'd like to see Rodgers, McGinn, Tielemans, Watkins, Martinez. I'd love to see them all on the bench personally, and maybe give them 15, 20 minutes at the end of the game. But I don't think it will work out like that. I just think Unai Emery won't want to risk the potential of not qualifying for the Champions League, because the amount of the money that's involved. Look, we've seen how much it's hurt us this season in terms of we ain't been able to spend a fucking penny. We've had to sell to buy. When we have bought, we've had to buy, go and get a player like Evan Guess on for 25 million euros, and that's fucking worked. That worked out swimmingly well, didn't it? Because he was not the Georgie Best, should we say? And to be honest with you, the one thing that with this game, our record against Liverpool is absolutely shite. No matter if we're at Anfield, if we're at home, you always seem to you could be as shit as you.
We haven't beaten you though at Villa Park for a while.
No, it's been draws, hasn't it? We've managed to scrape through.
And this is just when we're good.
Yeah. Well, I actually don't when's the last time we won it? Villa Park?
2022, 3-1. It was where was it? He scored Salah, Van Dijk. You had a disallowed goal in the first half. Basically, you boxed us all over the park by the looks of it. Yeah. That was the game when we tried to fight back. I think that was the Martinez mistake potentially.
Yes,
it was the one when Watkins had a goal ruled out in the at the start of the second half, and then he eventually scored just after that.
Yeah.
And I think we played quite well that game. That weren't under Unai Emery. It was under Unai Emery. Ignore me.
We were a different team. That was the season in which we were 2 games off the quadruple.
Yeah,
which is crazy to think, isn't it? Crazy.
How times have changed.
That would have been under Jurgen Klopp as well, wouldn't it? Though again, that's a completely different Liverpool team. Right. What would be your score prediction, gents? What do you reckon it'll be?
Me personally, I said it at the start, mate. I take a handshake and a 1-1 point apiece. Both take, and I think that puts the pressure on both Bournemouth and Brighton to win both of their games. And I just, like you said, Ben, I don't see that happening. So I think a draw would be a great result in this game, and we can all just relax for Wednesday. Breathe.
Yeah, I actually didn't know the Europa League final was so close. You've on Wednesday.
Yep.
Wednesday, mate, yeah.
Wednesday. Obviously, since playing Friday, you still have 4 full days to actually kind of rest for it. But obviously, within travelling and that, I'm not sure when Villa will actually travel, probably Monday or something like that. Thinking of all of that, we're absolutely shit. So we should probably win this game, really, when you put all of those together. You'd think just because Villa really that's as you two boys mentioned, that's Villa's biggest game for a very, 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 very long time. So Liverpool should probably win this, but since we're absolutely dog shit, I'm gonna say 2-2. I was actually going to say 3-1 Villa, but I didn't realise the Europa League final was so close. But I'm going to say 2-2. I think it was 2-2 last season. We're just awful. So you could hand us a win. Yeah, we'll still struggle to get it. So,
I've said a draw. I've been saying 1-1 pretty much all week, so I think I'll stick with 1-1. Guys, if you are new to the channel, make sure to smash that subscribe button. We are doing an giveaway for either match tickets or a shirt of your choice. It won't be for the Europa League final, though. Sadly, I can move mountains, but I definitely can't move those mountains. And also, don't miss out because we give that away every 500 subs, and we are getting close to the next giveaway now. I think we'll wrap up there, gents, because I think we've covered a lot of topics that we kind of need to. I think we would all probably take a draw right now. I think that's fair to say, and I think the game could play out like that. I've had some people telling me they reckon it will be a really good game, but I just can't see it. I reckon it's going to be a really shitty, scrappy 1-1. And we just both shake hands and walk on.
It would be just like Villa to turn up against Liverpool now after the shit performances against Burnley and Spurs to actually put in a decent shift against Liverpool. I wouldn't be surprised because Emery's put the pressure on himself. Like, I'm not going to lie, he fucked me off against Spurs and fucked me off against Burnley. I thought you've made mistakes there. But, now's a chance to prove it right. Go and win on Friday tonight and fucking go to Istanbul next Wednesday and bring home the glory. Champions League qualification, the European trophy in a week. Come on.
Well, it's the euphoria, isn't it? That if we was to perform and was to beat Liverpool, knowing at the end of the game that the players will do, because it's the last game at home this season, they'll do a victory lap at the Villa Park, wave the fans off prior to leaving for the Europa League final. And if they're doing that, knowing that Champions League qualification is secured and we've beat Liverpool, the euphoria and the feeling amongst the players will be fucking massive, and you carry that on into the final then, and you'd imagine the vibes then. I'd fancy us to absolutely steamroll Freiburg in that case if that was. But football doesn't work out like that, does it? Realistically, no. It's never that easy.
After what you said, I'll change my prediction and I'll say Villa win 2-1 just because of vibes. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, you feel good. You're going into a final. No. We're absolutely honking. I'll say 2-1 Villa. Genuinely.
Is there any players that you're nervous about that can hurt you this Friday?
I mean, as you said, like, I mean, it depends obviously what team Villa puts out, but like, there's a lot of quality there. There's a lot of quality there on that Villa side. Like, I'm a big John McGinn fan. Really like John McGinn. He's a proper warrior, proper legend of Villa now, isn't he? Like, he's actually a legend.
We just need a statue with a trophy in his hands.
Well, I think you're gonna get it, man. I think you're gonna get it. But yeah, like I think Wendy is a lovely player. Obviously, he was absolutely excellent in that game against Forest. That dribbling for that first goal was insane. Like, I've always rated Ollie Watkins. I think Ollie Watkins, he's kind of got better as the seasons went on. I really like Tielemans midfield. I like Kamara, who's obviously injured, but watching Villa earlier on the season, I was quite impressed with him. And Dean's not bad off the left. Matty Cash is a pretty good player. Martinez is a good goalkeeper. Cons is decent. Like, Villa have a lot of quality there. It just kind of depends what team you go for. But if you start that team, I'd definitely look at that front line and say that you can certainly hurt us. And especially even in midfield, like Tielemans or something like that, with how bad our midfield has been. I mean, if you win that battle, you'll win the game.
The thing is, if Villa turn up, we know at Villa Park they can beat anyone. We've seen it. We've seen it in recent years. They can beat absolutely anybody, but they have to turn up, and that's
even PSG, PS. Like, genuinely, like,
Bayern Munich.
Like, it's actually insane. But thinking back to that PSG game, I remember watching that and just thinking, Villa properly had PSG hanging by a thread that night. Like, Villa would have deserved to go through, and now PSG. Very, very likely, most likely. I don't want to tempt fate just because Arsenal winning the Champions League would be the worst thing to happen to me. But but now PSG look like very likely they're going to win back-to-back Champions League titles. And to think, as you said there, Gary, like Villa Park that night, you could have stopped them. It just shows the power of Villa Park. Do you know what I mean?
I think I've been saying this all week, to be fair, and I've said it on a podcast with Gary. Villa Park, for me, it is the closest thing in European, maybe world football, that comes close to Anfield on a European night. The power of the stadium, it just gets a bit... overwhelming for teams, and I don't think people actually understand. Like our record in Europe now is ridiculous since Unai Emery's come in and since we've been back in it. At Villa Park, we've won out of 20 games, we've won 18 games at home, which is truly remarkable. That's crazy, considering we spent a campaign of that in the Champions League. Like, obviously, 2 of them are in the Conference League and the Europa League, but you have to beat what's in front of you at the end of the day. So I think Villa should get full credit for that. As for team news from our end, the only one that has been confirmed, Emery's done his press conference and the only one that is confirmed to be missing the game is Amadou Onana, which we kind of knew that, and Alisson, the young lad, he probably wouldn't have got minutes anyway, but Onana we're kind of sweating on because we would like him to be fit for the final. As good as Lindelof was against Forest, he's not Onana, and Onana he's an absolute enforcer in that midfield. He's like should we say about 80%, maybe, or 70% of Kamara? Would that be about fair?
Yeah, I think so, mate.
I think he's been very good this season, Onana, but he's not the level of Kamara. For me, Kamara, he's a Rolls Royce, and he'd walk into pretty much most teams in the league. He's that good, which is a debatable one, a contentious one from some fans. I don't think they appreciate how good Boubacar Kamara actually
Get into our midfield anyway.
I think he would personally. I think
he
would.
Definitely... Yeah, I think he would.
Right, the only question mark on those 2 players is that they've both just suffered major injuries. Like they keep Boubacar Kamara's done 2 ACLs in 2 seasons. You know what I mean? It's kind of so we've only had him for what feels like half a season in the last 2 years. And then obviously Amadou Onana he's made a plasticine. He plays 4 games and then he's on the physio bench again. Like if we could just keep him fit, my word. Like who knows where we'd have been this season.
Yeah, I think the thing with that is
an excellent,
with Onana's frame, isn't he? He's 6'6". He's a slim, athletic build, and how many athletes of that sort of frame do you see? Really, don't. Footballers shouldn't be 6'6". Fucking that lean. Usually, if you see someone 6'6", they're a basketballer and they've got a lot of muscle behind them as well. But if he was to carry the muscle, he wouldn't be as athletic on the football pitch, so it wouldn't work. Yeah. And that's why he picks up all these little niggly injuries. Whereas as for Kamara, and I get it, look, ACLs, they are impact injuries, but once you get one, the other one, and I'm not quite sure which one he'd done, so again, I might be talking absolute out my arse here, but usually when you get one ACL, the other side is prone to getting another ACL injury. It's just a real unfortunate shame. I'm just hopefully over the next season or 2 we can keep them both fit for a full season and make a real crack of it, because I stand by what I say and I don't care who's listening, who's going to pull me up on it. I think if Villa didn't get the injuries we did when we got them, we wouldn't have been far off Manchester City and Arsenal now, because we was keeping pace with them.
I agree.
You'd definitely be ahead of us anyway, 110%.
We'll never know. It's all what ifs, right?
Of course, it is. It's if, buts, and maybes, but it's all hypothesis. But you look at the games that we've dropped points in during that period when the 3 of our midfielders got injured. Like, I'm sorry, but if you go to Arsenal and you take out Declan Rice, maybe not Saka because he's shit. You know what I mean? If you took out 3 of their best players, then it's okay. Take out Gabriel, Rice, and also Saliba or something like that from Arsenal's side, because they don't score enough goals, do they? Really, Arsenal. And you take out their 2 centre backs and their best midfielder, they'd be fucked. So you take out our 3 best players, our 2 defensive, 1 defensive midfielder, our captain, and plays a right wing, and then also our other centre mid in Yuri Tillemans. We were fucked, and there's a good reason for it. And the players that we had coming in, look, as good as Onana is, he was partnered by Douglas Luiz, who clearly fucking he's finished. He ain't going to play this level again. And then you've got like players like who else, like Lamar Bogard and players like that. Not to disrespect them, but they're nowhere near the level of those players. And we was hoping for Sancho to do the business. We was hoping for Leon Bailey to come back and do the business. And was just realistically, there was a big gust of wind there, and we were pissing in it and letting it blow all over us because we had absolutely fucking no chance. But hey ho, that's how the cookie crumbles. Hopefully, we both wrap up Champions League football very soon, and we can all go into the summer. You can fuck Slot off. We can try and have a bit of a rebuild, and maybe next season we go again.
Well, thing is, boys, you can actually be optimistic about your future. Of course, your immediate future with the game next week, but your future, because you've got a really, really good manager, and he's already shown he can do big things at Aston Villa, and he can continue to do very big things with Aston Villa. A few additions into that team, Aston Villa will only get even better. We can't be optimistic whatsoever in our current situation until it actually changes. But in terms of tomorrow's game, Villa I feel always play okay though. Like over the last number of years, play okay against Liverpool. So yeah, anything could happen, but I really hope you're celebrating the European title next week. I'll be celebrating. I'll be supporting the Villa 100% against Freiburg next week. I really hope you do it.
Well, keep an eye out for us in the stands, mate. You might see us in there having good celebrations.
Yeah.
If you see a fat bloke, see a fat bloke run on the pitch, it might be me. Right, on that note, I think we'll wrap it up there, gents. It's been an absolute pleasure. Good luck for the rest of the season, Jonathan, to a certain extent. And when I say that, I don't mean as in like the results for Liverpool. Hopefully you get rid of that clown.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And Gary, I'll see you tomorrow, mate. Up the Villa,
mate,
everyone.
Up the Villa.
And we'll end that there. There we go.